Well, welcome back to the patch, everybody. Today we're going to get into the plants laying down. I won't do probably a full patch update, but I'll let you know kind of what stage I'm in and show you on a plant what I do for getting it ready for the weed fabric. Some of the things that I do to get it ready, and then something different that I'm doing this year than in years past, just to kind of help the plant overall stay healthy. So we'll go ahead and get into it. Stay tuned. So this is the back side of the hoop we were just looking at, and I still have two plants in here. I will be going down to one plant probably today or tomorrow, but what I want to show you is that you can see that there's some weeds around the plant. I weed a little bit as I can go, but it's been very wet these last week here, and haven't been able to really do a whole lot. Even with the hoops, I leave them open because it's been so warm, and it's been still blowing rain and everything in here. So I don't want it to be any more of a muddy mess than I already have made it in that corner, because I needed to get in there to be able to help train these plants down. But what I'll show you is over here on the 1707.5 Caspers is I've gone ahead and I've weeded this out and got it 100% cleaned up, or as close to 100% as I can get. I do utilize a hoop hoe for some of the perimeter stuff and bigger stuff. But I hand pick out anything under the canopy, and then I go back even where I hoop hoed. If there is a crabgrass or a tubular type system of a root for a weed, I try and get those out. So I will use my finger and dig down a little bit and get the root ball out, so that it doesn't reestablish itself. Ideally with the weed fabric they wouldn't come back, but I don't want to take that chance, and I don't want to give it that opportunity to come back as much as possible. And the weed barrier only goes about 2.5 feet on either side, 2 to 2.5 feet on either side. I'll show you that in a minute, but want to get this as weed free as possible, so that don't have to fight it all year long. Don't want those weeds pushing up on the weed fabric and causing other issues. So I'll show you the weed fabric here. So this is the weed fabric that I use. This specific one by Vigoro is the one I use. They make a couple of different ones, and I've tried a couple different ones by them. But this is the one I used in 2021 when I grew my two biggest. And I really like how the water can still penetrate. And yeah, this still holds up, and it doesn't allow for light transmission compared to some other weed barriers. So some weed barriers are heavy duty and they don't allow moisture through, and then some are allow moisture through, but they're not heavy duty enough to hold up to the sun and hold back plants and all that. And this seems to be a really good mix of both worlds. So I really like the balance of this. This roll is 4 foot wide by 200 feet. I think I paid about $85 for it, $85, $90. And they do sell a 4 by 100 foot roll if you don't need quite that much. I plan to cut about a 20 to 24 foot section per plant, with the expectations that I'll slide that around the stump, and about 2.5 feet will go on the back side of the stump, as well as another 16 to 18 feet go out down the main. And then that's typically where my pumpkin falls out there. As far as people saying, well, is that where you put your pumpkin? No, not necessarily. It could fall a little shorter than that. It could go out a little further than that. But this gets me in an area where it keeps the most important parts of the main that healthy as possible, which is typically your first, I would say 12 foot of main is usually where you're going to have issues. It's going to be in that first 12 foot, sometimes a little bit further down depending on the bend of the knuckle or plant stress. So, but this is what I use. We'll go ahead and cut it to length. Like I said, they'll be about 24 feet long. I just laid this out at about 22 feet. And I was just thinking about it. The main difference on this particular one over the other by Vigoro It has this matrix grid core. Pay attention to that because there's like kind of a string grid that keeps it from tearing very easy, and it allows the fabric that they use to be more porous, but still have a tough enough fabric. So that's what you need to pay attention to. Their other one that they use is a woven. That one, I don't like it. It doesn't tear, but it's doesn't allow for good water penetration, and it just doesn't. It does have more light transmission than this one does. So just pay attention to the matrix grid core. All right, it's starting to get a little windy, but hopefully you can hear me through this. But I'm going to show you kind of how I fold it up and get it ready for setting up in the hoop house. It's a little bit easier if you do it this way. All right, so we're gonna do the node bearing now. I do mine a little differently than some people. I am gonna use Azos Inversity on these particular ones. This plant is going to get about the second, third node after the cot leaves with the vine bearing here, and it's gonna have the Azos Inversity on each one of those. And then that's the last one that's in contact with the soil. I do have a mix of potting mix, some black cow that's been sifted, and then some play sand mixed in there. And that's what I'll be using on the nodes. Now, although I will be covering these nodes, and I'll show you those in a minute, once the root has popped and I start to bury the vines on the secondaries when they come out, I'll come back and I'll clear that dirt off of those nodes off the top. So once that top node has become established, I'll take a like a horsehair brush or a paintbrush, that's fine, and I'll brush off the top of that, pour some water on it, whatnot. But that top of that vine will be cleared off once I get into burying secondary vines. So I'll show you that next. So there you go, got all the nodes buried up. You can see there, zoom in, I got each one covered. The one in the front, I didn't get the tippy top. I'm okay if I don't get the top of them, but definitely want to make sure that there's enough around the base and side of the vine so that you get good firing of those bottom tap roots. That's the most important part. So go ahead and wrap it up here. My other key point is on these weed fabrics, on this one in particular, it will appear hydrophobic at first. Water will bead and run, but the more and more you water with this, the easier for that water to permeate through there. So just keep that in mind. If you see that it's beating up and you end up getting the same one, it does take a few waterings for it to become permeable like that. It just has to get those pores opened and loosened. So just make sure that you stay on top of watering over the nodes and around the plant, and then water the whole area when you water so that you get good water saturation throughout the whole planting area. That's all I got. Hope you guys' plants are doing well and your starts are running and progressing well. We'll go ahead and do an update on next week's video of the whole patch and catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.